My name is Kevin Wafula. This is a short presentation, part in fulfillment of the course CSC 842 Security Tool Development. That is part of the PhD program in cyber operations at Dakota State University. And the professor for this course is Dr. Cody Wilu. This presentation is for Cycle 1 project, and my tool for Cycle 1 is named WebAppAttackVectorEnumerator. Just quickly going over the tool before I jump into the demo. This is a tool that can be used, is to be used in an offensive cyber operations assessment engagement, whether it's pen testing or red teaming. And it's a tool specifically to be used during the weaponization stage of the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain. The tool's focus is to help folks who are targeting web applications enhance the web attack vector enumerator to quickly identify services that are running on a given host, web application host, find out what products are supporting those services and version numbers, run those products and version numbers through the National Vulnerability Database hosted by NIST to enumerate common vulnerabilities and exposure CVEs that are open against those products version numbers, and then eventually use those CVEs to query the exploit DB to identify any exploit codes that exist against those CVEs, and subsequently any shellcode that can be used with those exploit code, aka a backdoor or something like that, that can be used to package together a payload, which is basically an exploit code and some shell code or some backdoor of some sort that's going to be delivered once that exploit code has exercised a vulnerability that's identified and being able to deliver the payload or shell code and had it executed so that it gives the engagement team access to that system and a footprint onto the information system overall. So quickly, the reason why this tool is I thought it was of value is during the weaponization stage of our Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain, quite significant amount of time is spent in trying to figure out, of the enumerated vulnerabilities or weakness points, which are the best to exercise, right? And a couple of things influence that. For instance, you say you have enumerated, 30 or 40 vulnerabilities. One thing that should be noted that is not all vulnerabilities are exploitable. Some vulnerabilities have been published out there, but there is no known exploit code as of yet. Theoretically, they can be exploited, but as of a given date, there's just no exploit code that is known, or even an attack that is known in the wild. So it's good to identify which one is those and quickly rule them out. Second is not all exploitable vulnerabilities are best candidate for selection during an offensive cyber operation engagement. Some of them might have configuration dependencies, that must be true for that for successful exploitation to take place, right? So you need to be able to know okay, I found a vulnerability. I have an exploit that's mapped to that vulnerability, and I do have a shellcode that I can actually deliver with that exploit code. But are there any dependencies? Just because a system is vulnerable, are there other configurations that must be true for me to be able to successfully exploit that vulnerability? So it's good to know during the research, and if you have a weakness that has a lot of dependencies, you kind of want to put that on the side and maybe cycle that later on if you have no other options left. And then finally, there's certain vulnerabilities that if they're not exercised properly, aka you have not crafted well your exploit code or even the shell code that you're delivering, you could trigger the system to fail, and hence foil the engagement or even cause alarm to the defendants. This could be, blue team members in a red team, blue team kind of exercise. So, so having a tool that can quickly go through the process of really getting down to, okay, I have a vulnerability, it's easy to identify, but I have an exploit code and I've reviewed them real quickly, and I'm now narrowing down the best candidates is kind of what the purpose of this tool is all about. And the goal is to help in efficiency and hopefully also effectiveness. So let me go ahead and jump into the demo, and demonstrate what the tool is capable of doing. So I will log in. So right now I have the tool. I have the script. It's a Python script right here, and I'll go back after I finish the demo just to gloss over some of the details about the script. But let me just jump right away and get going in executing this. So you want to use sudo because I'm using Ubuntu. You want to use sudo. This tool does have a part of it that writes to the file system. So hence permissions are important. That's why we're using sudo to kick off the Python script. So the tool's up and running. Quickly tells you, type 1 to get a menu. So I enter 1, and the tool displays for me the menu. So the way it works is that these menu numbers are the kind of the entries that we're going to be using to walk into the different steps that we want to execute. So first thing, I want to go ahead and enumerate services running on a given web server that we know is vulnerable. It could be, in this case, it could be a target that we already identified in our engagement. So I'm going to use web.insecure.org, which is a website out there in the internet that is used for security testing. And let's see what comes back. So step number 1, actually step number 2, actually let me back off a little bit. What really I should be entering here is I want to go ahead and execute step number 2. Okay, there you go. Then it asks me to enter either an IP address or a domain name of a host out there that I want to scan. So this step runs an nmap scan and enumerates all the services that are running on that host. And hopefully the scan is successful. It also provides us the products that are supporting that service and their version numbers. And we can see now that the results have come back, and we have 3 services running. 2 of them, actually basically it's two services, HTTP and SSH, but HTTP is running on port 80 without security on it, and then the other one is HTTP running on port 443, which is going to be SSL secured, and then we have OpenSSH running, which is not good for a system that's on the internet. It should not really be exposing a service like that. So next step is like, okay, what do I want to do? I want to go ahead and enumerate CVEs against one of those products that are supporting one of these services. So let's go ahead and pick Apache. So I'll say, okay, step number 3 is what I want to do. And it asks me, go ahead and enter the product name and the version number. Key point to mention here is that, you can enter the product name and the version number to the greatest specificity. In this case, Apache HTTPD 2.46. That will give you an exact match. What I would recommend for this tool is to not to go all the way to the specific version number, minor version numbers. Let's just go up to 2.4 and pick up anything. There are some times in NVD where vulnerability has been published and it says this vulnerability runs from version 2.41 to version 2.420, right? So if I say 2.46, I might not get that result, and that's why. So let's go ahead and run that, and you can see that now step number 3 is querying the NVD.
Here's what I found.
And we, it's going to bring us back results of CVEs that match this search criteria. Some of the CVEs might actually not be relevant to us, but we're gonna have to look at the results and see what actually relevant to us. Here's an example. Now we have CVEs here 1, 2, 3, and 4. But if you look at the CPE, the Common Platform Enumeration, for the first CVE, it applies to ARPA Xcode. Obviously, yeah, it met the search criteria, but this does not apply to us. We're looking for Apache HTTP Server 2.4. The second CPE platform is, yes, indeed, Apache HTTP Server 2.4.26. The third one is Apache HTTP Server. And here's an example I was talking about, from version 2.4 or all the way to version 2.4.29. So we fit in there. And this is probably what we want to focus on because our product is version 2.4.6, as we can see up here. And then the final one is still also Apache HTTP Server. Actually, the version 2.4 or through version 2.4.29. So these two CVEs match our criteria. So we take a note of it, but I'm just going to use one of them to continue showcasing what this tool can do. So step number 4, which is to enumerate any exploit codes from the exploit DB that are mapped to the CVEs, is what we want to find out. So let's go ahead and take this CVE 2017 15715. So I'll say what I want to do is go step number 4, and it tells me enter the CVE. Don't include the prefix of CVE hyphen. So I say 2017 17. Actually, it's 15. My apologies. It's 15 715. So I ran that. Fortunately, didn't get any results back, right? Let me just try this, the CVEs, and see if we have anything just to demonstrate. But here, so far, the NVD has no results. So again, number 4, let's try 2018. 1283. I believe that's what it is here. That one also did not return any results. Let's see. Let's try here. I just want to use this one here. I know it's not, doesn't match our version, but if this could give me results, hopefully it'll help demonstrate what the tool can do. 9789. Wow, okay. That didn't give me results either. So let's pick, let's go ahead and try another actually let's go to OpenSSH. We know that our OpenSSH was 7.4. Okay, so I already picked to rerun the result, so I'm just gonna have to do that. Apologies on that. What I meant to do is to scroll back up and select step number 3 to identify CVEs associated with the OpenSSH. So we can go ahead and do step number 3 now. So I'll not be so specific. I'll leave it at 7 dot, see what comes back. So again, we're creating the NVD. You can see quickly right now I've gone through a bunch of CVEs. There's no exploit associated with those CVEs. There's no need to waste time worrying about those CVEs or those vulnerabilities associated with those CVE numbers. So hopefully here we probably get a hit that can map to an exploit, so we can walk through the rest of the tool. All right, so I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all OpenSSH running on BSD. So let me try and pick the latest one. So I'll say step number 4, 2019, 905, 16905. That did not yield any results. And actually, SSH 7.4 doesn't have any weak vulnerabilities so far that we can find, but I'm just trying to find a system that now, a product that will at least allow us to go through the entire tool set, steps of the tool. So let's try that. 2685. Step number 4. 20. 2685. That one doesn't have any results either. Wow. Let me try something here. 2018. 19.6109. Six one ten. Okay, great. So at least we know that the version that we enumerated was SSH 7.4 protocol 2.0. So far the CVs that came back, none of them are 7.4, so there is no CV associated with this version number. However, and I try to keep it open to pick up anything 7 dot and greater, but we at least now have identified this 2019 CVE 6110, I believe. Let me just double check. Yes, that's SSH 7, OpenSSH 7.9. It does have 2 exploits codes associated with it, and it has 0 shell codes. So the idea here, you'll have to use this exploit code and go find a shell code that can be paired with this exploit code, aka the payload, for you to exploit the vulnerability and take over the system if we're to choose this exploit code. So now we've found these 2 exploit codes. So we want to go to step number 5. Let's keep in mind of these 2 exploit DB IDs, 46516 and 46193. So now I can enter. Actually, the text here is not accurate, so I will fix this text before I and push a new version of this code out, this script out there. So it's asking me basically to enter the EDB ID, exploit DB ID, so I can get more information about this exploit code that exists against the CVE. So that's 46.516. And so the first one is OpenSSH SCP client. I do have a URL here that can go read more about the exploit code itself. Right now on my system, on my local exploitDB archive that was downloaded from GitHub, I can go ahead and get this Python exploit code right now and review it, and just to understand more of it again. It says it hasn't been verified yet, but somebody has written it, so I'll have to test it to make sure that actually works. And it says it's a type of a Python script, and it's ASCII text executable. So a little more information about, I'm getting a little more information about the exploit code itself. I can also do step number 5 and say 46193, which is the other one, and this is SCP client multiple vulnerabilities. Again, it's SSH Stranger Things. I don't know what that means. Again, we get pretty much the same information, but I get the feeling these two are sort of related. These 2 exploit codes. Now that we have the, we now know we have an exploit code. We don't have a shell code, but that's a whole different story. What can we do? Step number 6. Step number 6, actually it will be step number 7, which I'm gonna skip for now, just to demo step number 6. So let me take a step back. So we've just gone through step 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. No, actually 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, and 5. To arrive at identifying an exploit code that we can use. That's the manual way of going through the tool. The other way is automated. It is not accurate as a manual way because the automated way does not allow you to search products to include the version numbers. It will just search products. And the way the manual one works is that, let me go here real quick and go through the file system here to show you so an Nmap scan will run once I give it a domain name or an IP address, and it will output an XML file. Okay, you can see this one has been named Nmap output web.insecure.org. So it will append a domain name here, but the prefix will be Nmap output. Then the domain name will be appended here, and then XML. Instead of just printing to the screen, then the search exploit, which is part of the exploit DB, will come and automatically read this XML file and read the product that's in there that we identified as supporting some service on some host, and also try to give us not only the CVEs that are there, but also the exploit code that's mapped to those CVEs. So Nmap will give us the scan output. However, search exploit will give us the exploit code and the CVEs. So that's step number 6. It's just an automated way of running it. So let's go through that and see how that looks like. So it's asking me for, say, step number 6 is asking me for the domain name, and I give it that. Actually, let me just step back here. So far, we see here that we don't have, we only have one file that's starting with Nmap. Okay, let me go ahead and just show that again. So I'm going to use a different domain name, so we can see a new file being written instead of using this one that it's just going to overwrite the existing file. So test.asp.val.web is another insecure security testing website. So let's go run that. So it's executing an automated web application scan right now. When it's done, it's going to pass the execution to search exploit, and hopefully we'll get something back. Let's see if we got any results, because that doesn't seem like there was anything there. Yeah, so you can see that we did get some results from the XML file, from the Nmap, and I will go ahead and just read that file just to see what's in there before we proceed. And we can see trying to, so at least there's one port open, port 80, and it's open, and it's running Microsoft. As you can read here, it's running, the product is running is Microsoft IIS HTTP server version 8.5, and the platform, it assumes is some Microsoft Windows, right? So at least we picked up one thing. Okay, so what's interesting is that so it did run, and we got the same result over here, right? And then however, the search exploit did not find anything. And the reason why it didn't find anything, because again, that's what I say that this is not a more efficient way of running it, because it just says Microsoft IIS HDB. It doesn't give a version number. So what I'll try to go and do is go back to step number 5 and try to use a version number and see what happens there. So Microsoft IIS HTTP D8 dot something. Okay. Okay, so at the you can see, because lack of a version number with the automated way, we didn't get anything. We just got results from Nmap right here. So we ran our query. Let me just scroll back up again here quick. We ran a query over here. It executed the scan, and it did an exploit DB query. After that, it outputted the Nmap scan and showed us this Microsoft IIS. However, when execution was handed over to exploit DB, it didn't really give us much. Okay. It didn't give us much because the automated way does not include version numbers for the products. But so when we ran the same product with version 8 dot something, at least we came back with one exploit identified. So that's the difference between the two ways: the manual step by step, which is preferred, the automated. There are times when the automated can be efficient for products that are very niche and specific. So the final step is step number 7, which is where now you know the exploit that you identified. You want to read it. So let's go back to the exploit IDs that we identified earlier on, 46516 and 46193. Okay. So it's going to ask us for those numbers. We're going to now go into that code itself and really read it and make a determination whether this is the best way. Is there any dependencies in terms of for instance, configurations, are there any caveats in terms of this could fail the system or something like that? Let's go read and see what it says. So I'll enter the first exploit code, and it goes and opens the exploit code file and allows me to read the entire file. Okay. So we entered it here, and it gives me a summary of the file. And now I can start reading through the file and try to understand, how to use it, what it's doing, any dependencies. Everything that I'll need will be in this file. Okay, and that will help me facilitate my decision whether I really want to use this exploit code or want to choose another vulnerability and another exploit map that is better suited for my engagement. Okay, so that's really the basis of this. This tool is just to be used fairly quickly during the weaponization stage of an offensive cyber operation engagement to help you get down to this level and help you make decisions whether you want to use um, you want to exercise certain vulnerabilities and certain exploit codes that are mapped to them. And also, as you saw the results earlier on, it will give you whether it's an exploit code as well as a shell code. Some of these vulnerabilities will have an exploit code out there as well as a shell that can be used or has been known to be used with the exploit code, which will make your work fairly more easier. And again, the objective is to hopefully increase efficiency and effectiveness of the engagement. So, to summarize, I will post the video on this GitHub link, website, and also I'll update some of the typos in the tool and just push out a new version. So again, it runs an nmap scan. Here's some of the things that you need to install, like libxml. Two utilities are needed if you're gonna be using the automated way where nmap runs and dumps the results in an XML file, and such exploit goes to read that file. You'll need this library. Obviously, we're using exploitdb to identify exploit codes. There's a GitHub repo that you download and configure on your system. We're leveraging NVD Live with Query E to get CVEs out of it. My demo here was built on Ubuntu 22, and it's a Python 3 script, and Python 3 pip was needed to actually install the NVD library that was also used in the code itself. Yeah. So future direction with this tool is hopefully I can refine it. It's still very crude, but down the road I'd like to see if I can maybe map those vulnerabilities and exploit to a threat intelligence database that is already having my attack framework integrated in it. And reason why is that I'd like to identify if there's any APT groups that are already um, um, exploiting that vulnerability, and or they're using the exploit codes that we've identified and against those vulnerabilities. And hopefully, if we can find those, then I can leverage the Meta attack framework to identify the TTPs associated to the APT group or APT groups, and any potential IOCs that we can expect to come out of such an engagement. This is really going to be good for adversary emulation engagements, for red teams, to test against the organization to see how an organization will stand against a given APT group. And hopefully find gaps and improve those close those gaps, or validate that yes, for this specific vulnerability and this APT group, the defenses are solid enough to defend against that. So that's really the gist of this tool, was just to find an automated way of going through some of these manual steps that we go through in terms of identifying vulnerabilities, CVEs, and then exploit codes and shell codes that we can use in an offensive cyber operation engagement, whether it's pen testing or red teaming. Thank you very much.